All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition and flexible dieting in general. So in the program, we've got a whole lot of videos for you to still look at for things like refeeding, taking a diet break, tracking your macros, your genetic health types, chronobiology, genetic preferences based on sustainability, based on the best strategies for your genetic type to be consistent with the application of this program and getting those goals and outcomes that you want. And most importantly, things like how to use MyFitnessPal and your food diary in your genetic profile. So these are going to be some of the basic frameworks for what we're doing, covering things that help you understand your body's energy balance without obsessing about calories and macros, but having a conscious foundation to work with. Now, the biggest message that I'm an advocate for is flexible dieting. This allows freedom and structure at the same time. So I want to break down flexible dieting because I know a lot of people still get confused. And, you know, I get a lot of people in my messaging on my Instagram or social media, in my coaching one-on-one, and they, you know, still aren't completely clear on what this is and how it works. So we're not just talking about if it fits your macros, we're not just talking about a strict meal plan either. So we're finding a happy medium. So yeah, we want to find out what, you know, they're wanting to know what's good, what's bad. Do I need to eat clean? Does food quality matter? And all these kind of questions. So I want to clarify my views and approach on this. And obviously through the journey, you will expand on this yourself. So and I'm going to give you just a few of my thoughts as a coach, combining this flexible dieting method with your genetic needs. So firstly, you need to get clear on what flexible dieting is. It's not intuitive eating where you just have no structure. And it's also not completely structured so that you obsess about calories and macros either. No one side of the coin is the answer. I have people not wanting to track or monitor their intake because they're so against dieting, and yet they're still not getting results. So on the other hand, we've got people who think that flexible dieting is just wake up every day in the morning and I'll eat whatever I want and I'll just track it. You know, whatever at lunch, whatever at dinner, and there's just kind of make it up as they go. That can be flexible dieting, but it's not the flexible dieting approach I'm going to be working with you. Now, that's generally actually what I used to do for the most part myself. Some people can be extremely flexible where they have no plan. I think too, once you get advanced, you can kind of do that. But for the most part, and for myself and coaching many people from beginner to the well advanced, the best people with flexible diet are the ones who have structure and some kind of plan. So they know primarily what they're going to have for about 70 to 80% of the day of the week. And they'll know breakfast is probably going to be this, but then they could have options during the day that change a meal. It's not like I have to have this for breakfast. It's, you know, I could have eggs, or I could have oats, or I could have a chia pudding, or a recipe based on your SHEA outputs or your genetic outputs. Yeah, so, you know, a rough idea of what you'll probably be having, and then you get the meal, and then you get the next day where you can change. So, but you still have structure and what you do, as well as intention and a holistic focus at hand. So this is where your food list will come into play, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, maybe your afternoon after you've had your lunch, you flexibly have whatever snack you want. And so your flexibility might be choosing that snack, or planning a meal out, or a more satisfying meal, or you get to Wednesday and you're really tired and you really followed a plan and you just like a little bit of freedom because that's going to help you. You could be one of the genetic types where this is one of their top health priorities. So adding this in as a strategy is going to be really important. So the videos that I'm going to put in the resource library following this are going to allow you to understand where that might be best for you to apply based on your gene type. So yeah, look, things to look forward to, flexibility when the moment arises, and it might be hard, but you choose a better option with a little more freedom. So it's not just about being locked in to a general meal plan, but for the most part, it is intentional and planned to minimize you veering off. So you have options, you have flexibility, as the name suggests, and I find that people for the most part, generally still have foods they expect to eat. So it's not just making it up massively on the day. The easiest way to really flexibly diet is to have stable foods. So generally quite a wide range of foods. For example, in your Kickstart session with me, we will have covered this. For example, we might strategize that I make you a basic meal plan based on what you currently eat with some tweaks and room to move, or you want me to completely write something based on your top health food priorities, and then you have some flexibility around that. Or we have set macros and calories, and you're going to learn to fish for yourself by using genetic recipes in your suggestions, or simply create your own out of your top food list. So adding in micronutrients that are best for your genes. So if we go for the option of just tweaking your current diet, then there's still foods that and they're going to be a part of your diet. So it's easy to track, it's easy to transition, and it's easy to get started. And you might find the energy values. It's just a matter of tweaking things like the portions. So it's not an overwhelming diet approach that has you quit before you start, as it's too detailed or it's just too hard to implement. It makes it easy, but the big key thing is you have structure for your day, but also the ability to change something and not feel like you're on a meal plan that you have to be locked down, which can be a major stress for certain genetic types. And finally, the genetic types that do have to maybe monitor body fat or can have the tendency to put on weight will have these genetic kind of emotional biology hormones that psychologically have them liking more freedom. So yeah, some people just don't like meal plans. So when someone can't have something on their list or access the usual food, they also can get stuck with what to do. Like they might be in a meeting and they can't have their usual lunch. They might have traveled for the day for work. They then can actually have the education and knowledge to then be able to make a smart decision when the plan doesn't go perfectly, which, as we know, happens in life. And this is the reason why so many people don't succeed. So this is something that can be hard for certain genetic types, as they like to follow things to the letter and can be really hard on themselves with perfectionism. So let the perfection lie in the framework, not so much the details, and find details within that are a hierarchy of needs, so to speak. So for those who struggle with perfect structure on the other side, they feel they need freedom of choice within some boundaries and guidelines. This can keep them focused on the plan. So there's nothing worse than someone who has no thought process and not been, hasn't been thought through. And then, they can't get their meal plan in. So they're like effort mode and they think they're a failure and they fall off. Nothing will ever be perfect. So this is why the methods in this program are going to teach you a self-awareness you can take anywhere, anytime and succeed to make the journey your own. So we've come a long way in how we roll out our caloric balance. So no longer is it a restriction and deprivation process. It's a conscious chain of flexible choices. I've coined this in my coaching, and I call it food negotiation. So it's allowing you to negotiate with yourself to have what you want and apply what works also. So have your cake and eat it too. So that's the beauty of flexible dieting, is it teaches you it's not the end of the world if things aren't perfect. It teaches you that the steps to deviate from the plan, it teaches you the steps to deviate from the plan, but at the same time stay on track so you still have great success. The thing with flexible dieting as well is it allows you not to have to be locked down. So when we do macros and calories, there are key things I want you to hit as a pyramid of importance, so a hierarchy of needs, and there's a sliding scale. So the number one thing we always want to hit is going to be our calories. That's number one. That's our number one importance. So when it comes down to fat loss, it comes down to energy balance and giving you the right calories. Number two is going to be protein. So protein is going to be the integral part of building muscle, particularly in a fat loss phase and muscle preservation. So we want to be hitting your protein target. Now, for certain genetic types, we've talked before about them having more muscle mass and those more endomorph genetics, not needing to build so much. Your macros are still going to be important, particularly in a losing fat phase. So we want muscle preservation. So we want to be hitting your protein target. Yes, this is relevant to those, as I said, genetic types that have a lot of muscle mass already. So the number 3 is going to be your carbs and fats. So carbs and fats can be quite interchangeable. Some people run better on one or the other, and your session with me and your genetic type can determine a lot of this, plus your body's current state. So for example, your carb threshold might have changed, or you might have been not as active and not being able to, sort of, you don't have as much muscle mass, or just variables might have changed. So your carb threshold is about what we want to focus on. I won't go too deeply into that right now. So if you've not been training hard, as I said, and utilizing your carb sensitivity, your threshold might not be very high. So you might do better on a little bit more fats, or you might do the opposite, where some days you might want some more carbs. You're just, craving that kind of food. And I mean, again, this can happen in that stress response for these particular genetic types. So when we cover all bases in this program, we should be able to find a happy medium, or when these happen, there's still some boundaries where it's not an all or nothing approach, or when that stress hits in, we can give you a little bit of extra carbs that particular day, and then you can adjust it but still not go over your calories. So you can have that satisfaction, but also lower stress at the same time with the other protocols that we have in the program. So what I mean by this is that let's say your carbs, let's say your protein's 120 grams for the day, your fats are 60 grams and your carbs are 140. So our goal is, let's say 1800 calories. And it's to hit the calories first and also to hit the protein. And then our goal after that is obviously to hit our carbs and fats. But the good thing with flexible dieting, for example, is, as I said, feel like having more carbs, I've got a little bit more stress today or something like that. So then you get the ability to say, all right, now I'm going to take away the fats. So I'm going to have 11 grams of fats, and that's 199 calories. Sorry, it's about 100 calories. And I'm going to add that in as carbs instead. So about, again, 100 calories worth of carbs is 25 grams. So this way I was able to have 165 grams of carbs today, 49 grams of fat, but I still hit my total calories. So you adjust, and this can be done particularly in MyFitnessPal. That's the beauty of flexible dieting. It allows you to deviate from the plan, but still hit your overall goal and still hit your overall structure. You can also adjust on the days following. So this can be over a week as well. So these can be your averages. So am I saying do that every day? Absolutely no. The best results will come from following the plan, but this allows you to be life flexible and carry this on as you go through. I want you to have that structure, have those macros, but things aren't going to always be perfect. You have to eat out. You have to go to a friend's birthday. So I want to challenge you to really make this a bit of a fun game. Nothing about, you're going to fumble at times. It's not going to be easy. It's, use the community, use me. Like, you're definitely going to have to learn. If it's something you haven't known before, it's like an orientation, there's a time frame and it might feel a little bit off, but that's the part that's out your comfort zone. So don't forget that. So you want to go on a date, for example, too, with your partner, that's fine. Within reason, set this out before you start. Like in our Kickstarter session, for example, people who are high in connection hormones, date nights are really important. It gives you something to look forward to, gives you connection that can turn on your happy hormones, lower stress. You can eat less, or you can intentionally eat more on that day and then have, a sort of semi-fast day the next day. So within reason, as I said. So what I want to show you is how I'll look at something. For example, if you'll have dinner coming up on Friday night, a normal day is pretty scheduled. So then, you want to have a bit of flexibility on that day. So you want to go to dinner, have a glass of wine or something, or you might not have any alcohol. You might have a dessert. You just want to share that. It's your thing with your partner. So something I normally do is have the clients decrease calories in that day. So then ideally you would try to backload calories. So if you normally have meal 1, 2, 3, and this is meal 4, you divide that with the 450 calories to get each meal to get 1800 maybe. And then you give more calories here, have a smaller breakfast, have 250 at lunch and 400 here. So that's going to give you 450 calories from here to play with. So again, over the day, work that out. You don't even have to work it out that detail. Just maybe have a later breakfast, just halve the portions. And then, you know, do it either side, knock off 100 calories a day for the next 3 days. But, you know, be within reason. Don't go and smash it and have 1,000 calories extra, because that is probably not the best long-term approach. And it's probably going to have you have a binge and purge mentality, which is what we want to veer away from. So yeah, so you don't want to be one of those people who just loses everything whenever everything isn't perfect. So that's the problem with meal plans, for example. People don't know how to deviate. They don't know how to do this long term. And then it becomes a diet. So a meal plan is not a long-term solution. It can be part of the structure, but flexible dieting will, I believe, give you the best outcomes. And then you have structure. So you can basically have a meal plan that you follow through the week, but I'm teaching you the skills to navigate through life when it isn't perfect, and having these skills to be able to go and have a life, go on a date, which is good. You know, it's important. Your partner might not be dieting and they might not understand it. So while you ask for support, this is really important. And some genetic types too thrive best on naturally fasting. You know, they can extend their fast for the next day, or the happy hormones, as I said, of a date night and the anticipation for that genetic to be free, you know, and the love connection can really make it easy to stick to the plan and negotiate some calories over the days either side, so you have a win-win. So you do not have to just become, you know, solely a dieter. We've come a long way from that. This program is about finding a happy medium, and still be able to have a social life, still be able to have relationships with friends, and you can go out and see, you know, do things when we're not in this lockdown phase. So you'll be able to take your partner to dinner. This is important, having strategies and tools to combat those situations. And so it's important for long-term success. Nutrition should be a part of your lifestyle. Nutrition and body mastery is a form of self-love, which I'm a huge advocate about. For bodies that truly have the stress response in relation to weight, so the endomorphs or endo combos, really will thrive when they master this area of the program and realize it's not punishment to eat less. It's just part of the process of turning down diseases that might come. And these genetics, and celebrating the empowerment from the mastery of your body on all levels. Gone are the days of diet and punishment. Conscious nutrition is self-love. There are so many ways to, you know, map out your journey. This is one of the most successful that I've ever used. I use it in my daily life and it is amazing. You'll become a master at your body when you understand your parameters, and you won't feel like that is a negative thing. So rigid dieting, and it feels much better to master your body than to feel bad about yourself, not having what you want, not feeling good, turning on diseases, and not understanding your body. So rigid dieting is not something that can last for long term. So I don't advocate that. In this program, it can be an 8-week focus, but it's a plan to help you set you up for long term. That said, in these 8 weeks, I want you guys to actually crush it, but substantially set yourself up long term. Be strict when you need to, but also have the ability to be flexible, and I'll see you on the other side.